Welcome to Capture the Reps podcast, the podcast for fitness creatives by fitness creatives. Each episode, we will dive into techniques, strategies, and behind-the-scenes stories to help fast-track your career. Whether you're behind the camera or in front of it, this is the space to grow, create, and connect. Hit it, Sam.
Hey.
What's up?
What's up?
Welcome to Capture the Reps podcast. Again, recurring guest. Second time. Different side of the room. Do you feel like that's throwing you off a bit, or?
A little bit. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the problem.
Of course, we got Chris here. Chris, what's up?
Howdy.
Hey. How's it going?
Vibing. Oh, it's going.
Okay.
It's going.
Jake, the reason why I wanted here is obviously because we're great friends and I really value having you in my life, but also selfishly, today I was looking through my YouTube channel, right? Because that's a new focus for me this year. And I think it's a lot of at least creators on the video side, like they utilize their YouTube channel, or maybe don't utilize their YouTube channel. But I want this to serve as almost like a helpful guide as to how to get back into YouTube, focusing strictly on long form pieces of content. Because I feel like, and we were talking off camera about this, and I know you have some thoughts, so I'm going to kind of give you the mic here, but I've noticed that is one form of content that I think could make a resurgence because everything else is so short formed and some things are being lost. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that you're on the right track.
Well, of course, because I have great people like you in my life that make sure that I stay on the right track.
I wish we recorded all of our conversations because I feel like just that in general could be amazing content in overall. You and I talk like after the gym. Obviously, that's where we had initially met. But
after you wax me in a workout, typically.
Yeah.
Literally.
DNF. But those conversations are always great. I look forward to them every time. It's fun because I get to chat with somebody who's like-minded and not only asking the right questions, but always making me think outside of the box, just with myself, even stuff that I can apply to myself. And we had talked about this before, long form content, and I think we've gotten away from it. I think that it's important to sometimes do a little reset, which I feel like it's probably what you've been feeling recently. You checking out
from
your
a creative
socials.
Standpoint, yeah. I mean, from a actual, like you know, me and Chris were talking about our portfolios and like, you know, where are our holes and stuff like that. It's like the same idea. It's like, what do I need to make more of about this year? Like, I know I need to make more passion projects. Why not mirror passion projects with long form, you know?
And it's easily doable. The real question is, it's the story behind it. And if you have a good story, it's going to tell itself. And it's going to be really easy to create that long form content overall. Even if you have a short form video, you can't tell a story as well as something with more length, like 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever that length may be. More time on screen is always going to be better. The real question is that content worth capturing? Is it adhering to the story itself in every way possible? Because that's the real question that you want to ask yourself with long form content. If it's not specifically around the story, then it's not worth capturing. It's not worth showing that to the audience, because usually as a creator, we tend to try and take ourselves out of the picture. We think about our audience, the people that are viewing our content, and we think, how are they viewing it? If I like it enough, will other people like it? Probably. How can I view that overall? And usually it's putting yourself out of that perspective. And I think that that's what's helpful in any type of content. But as far as long form content goes, it's tough because most people are in the mindset of wanting to watch a 10 to 15 second video.
Right.
But the reality is you just can't tell a good story in that length. Even if you're looking at a photo itself, like Chris can talk about this, a photo has to tell a story too. And if you aren't telling a story just in a photo, then take video, for example. I feel like it could also be tougher as well, just in a photo, because when you look at it, a photo, right, a picture's worth 1,000 words. What would you say for video? Even more, I would assume. But
That's probably where I would call you and be like, hey, Jake, somebody just asked me this. Like, what do you think?
probably.
Probably.
But even from a photography standpoint, Chris, like what you're capturing has to matter enough to capture it, right?
Yeah, I think when I'm capturing, a lot of the time, I mean, it can be challenging in some of the fitness sense because the story is kind of unraveling in a weird way, but you're also just trying to capture like specific moments, right? Like I think, and we talked about this on our podcast a couple episodes ago, about one of my favorite photos I captured. And it was on a trip in San Diego. And it was like that photo, especially for me, and when I tell the story about it, I feel like it gives a sense of emotion. Like it brings up a lot more feeling than just yeah, I mean, it's obviously really cool for somebody to see somebody else catching a heavy snatch in a photo. But a lot of the times it's to really capture a story of that, you might have to be shooting a lot wider than like what's trending on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're shooting a wide angle shot of somebody catching a heavy snatch that could tell a lot better story than, a really compressed image of it's like literally just a portrait of that person in the bottom of a snatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like both of those photos, like, I think I see a photo like what I'm talking about in the ladder, like, oh, that's cool. I see a wide angle shot of that. I think I get a better idea of what's going on, right? Like, I think I'm more emotionally compelled to the image rather than like, oh, that was a cool shot. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it draws me more to like to look longer. Like when you say if a photo is worth 1,000 words, like I think for a photo to be worth 1,000 words, it has to keep you engaged in a way. You know what I mean? Like more so than just
the subject.
Yeah, like it's cool. Like it's a really great photo. It's really cool when you do capture a subject, but when you can step back and capture more of, again, what's happening around that subject, I think it can be a lot more compelling of an image than...
Yeah, like capturing the coach or
100%,
family,
the crowd or the crowd reaction.
Yeah,
100%.
their reaction to it. And it's usually something crazy.
Yep.
And that's worth more.
So you think, could a long form piece of content on the photography side, could it just be like an actual, like a project where it's like, I'm at this game and I'm getting literally like fans, athletes that are, participating, and then also getting like telling the story of like what happened there that night?
Yeah, so I like to think of this, and not to like take the floor on this, but I like to think of this like recently I posted some pictures of my friends and I getting sushi, and we also talked about this incident recently. And anytime I post a carousel like that, I always am mindful of posting it in the order in which it happened. And that's how I'm trying to tell that story. Now, that specific circumstance, I like to try to challenge myself a little creatively. So I was only shooting on a 50. Like that's all I had with me. But also like I'm eating sushi with my friends. I'm not trying to have like a bunch of lenses on me. But I think something that could be compelling from a storytelling perspective as a photographer is if you're utilizing maybe carousel reels, and you start with an establishing shot. Like I think of, again, I want to get into concert photography. I think that'd be really cool. Maybe your first is the establishing shot and it's a 24 mil or 16 mil of the location and the crowd and the concert happening. And then it's, a medium angle shot of like a closer up of the crowd and the band, and then maybe it's like a close-up of the lead singer, you know what I mean? Like something that kind of tells a story in that way. I feel like from a photography perspective, like very much like video, but stills.
Yeah, it's less, but if you're limited to, let's say, 5 images, that's
100%.
kind of how you do it. You establish the story, you'd establish where you are, and see where it takes you.
What are some elements, like when we look at like that long form content, where should we go for ideas? Or where do you think is a good starting point on that end?
I think it comes down to the person themselves. So if you're trying to create that content, what are your interests? What do you enjoy? more than likely there's going to be thousands of other people that also enjoy that. And just start from what you like yourself. Because if you're trying to do other things what other people like, then the passion goes away. You're not going to enjoy it. And that's like the first thing is whatever it is that you're capturing, you have to enjoy it. Because if you don't, then the audience either subconsciously or consciously will be able to tell based off of what you're outputting.
And then how do you know like what elements to add? Like how do you know, oh, I need some interviews or I need, this, like when you're looking, all right, let's say I'm interested in the upcoming, I guess the football season's over. Yikes.
Golf season is coming.
Upcoming golf season, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about, or how do you make the decision of like what you actually need to get? It's not a good question. It's fine.
No, I think it's a good question.
Good question. Thank you. Good question.
I think that you have to find out what it is or who it is that you're capturing. So you're talking about golf. So anybody that's playing, so let's say Waste Management Phoenix Open, anybody that's going to be playing there competitively had to get there and had a journey to get to that point. And so usually what we'd want to do is either hone in on a certain person or subject and say, let's take it back 10 years ago. How did we start this? Where did we start this? If we're talking about Tiger Woods, he started when he was 3 or 4 years old. He was a child when he started. Like that's where his journey began. And we know that there is probably 5 to 10 long form types of content around Tiger Woods and his journey from a toddler up into when he first won his first PGA.
So you want to develop like main characters. You want to have some characters that people can identify with or whatever it is.
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're telling their story through either like interviews. You're obviously showing them in their environment doing their thing. So when we're looking at what I could do for my YouTube channel, like I could tell athlete stories, right, of like them at events and gather some interviews and some historical things and kind of go through there as like a behind the scenes type thing.
Yeah.
And there's a million other different things, but the important things are to have an interest, have a vested interest, and develop main characters. What are some other like elements in there that you would need?
I mean, I always go back to like a gear perspective, and I'm trying to stay away from that because I know what you're trying to accomplish here. But
you're just going to ignore it and do whatever you want, right?
No,
just kidding, Jake.
I'll be nice. I'll be nice. No, you need this camera, this lens, these batteries.
You need $800,000 cinema lens set.
Gosh, the elements. I think if you're a good storyteller and you can bring the story out of someone, like I think everybody has a story and it's just a matter of bringing it out of someone. Like take, for example, I think that you have an amazing story. Very few people know about it, but I think your story is worth telling and it's worth capturing overall. Mm-hmm. And I won't say anything further, but you just have to find that out. And sometimes if you're thinking about an individual or a subject, it's hard to do that because you have to try and create a relationship with that person to learn more about them. That's why, like for video projects or photo shoots, the first thing that I try to do with anybody is try to get them to feel comfortable with me. And it's hard to do that in a couple minutes time. But once you get somebody comfortable, even in this podcast, like there could be somebody who the first 10 minutes, like they're, it's awkward. It doesn't feel right.
Right.
And then after like 15 minutes, something comes out of them where they're more comfortable. They feel like they can talk and they're a little bit less forgetful about all the cameras and the lights that are inside of here.
Yeah. I mean, that happens to me literally every single episode. The first 10 minutes, I'm like,
and then we get JT 2.0.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like tongue tied. No, but that's interesting. So like you can either have someone else carry the story and be the main character, or you can do it as yourself. So like, perhaps like you don't have access to if we're going on that like golfer route, we don't have access to like the top golfers or anything like that. Okay, maybe I just tell my story of, you know, in golfing, like in kind of something that I'm passionate about. I'm not, see, this is tough because I'm not passionate about golf, but like my brother is. So like maybe I'll talk about Tom. But like having that idea of like, okay, if I can't find someone to be the main character, I can be the main character, put myself in there and create longer form pieces of content with it.
Mm-hmm. I would say yes. And I guess just to also say, stories come in any way, shape, and form. This is one specific way, like the hero's journey, right? So we're talking about a subject or individual. We could have another story based off of the camera industry in itself, the competitiveness of it. Maybe like it's everything, every single thing you look around, you can have a story behind it. It's just a matter of, one, are you interested in that story enough to tell it well enough? So that's the crazy thing, is you start to think about every single aspect of what's here on earth. There is a story.
Yeah.
And how can you portray that the best way possible?
Yeah. So, I mean, you should be able to pull content from anywhere. Everything has the potential to be a long form piece of content as long as you're interested in it and have passion with it.
Take journalists, for example. They usually tend to take themselves out of the equation entirely, and they try to find a certain thing that's going on politically or in any way in the world right now. So somebody who's either going overseas, going to another country, telling a story about a certain thing that's happening right now. Those are stories. Those are things that become potential Netflix documentaries, right?
Yeah.
So long form content, that's the way to go. It's hard when it comes down to just us as individuals and creatives, because usually we tend to think about our client, the people that we're trying to capture, the brands that we're capturing, right? But when we think about ourselves, that's when we're like, I don't know if it's interesting. I don't know if I'm worth capturing, but the reality is there is an audience for everything and everyone.
That's a really good point.
True.
Yeah.
Just cut that one piece of the podcast.
Right.
That's all. Cut everything else out. I think one cool thing that I'm noticing, and I think some people are noticing as well, this year specifically, we're only 3 days into the year, but I've been seeing the trend where there's a lot of well-known brands that we all know of, either in the CrossFit space or any other space industry. They are creating long-form content. And that's what I enjoy, at least myself personally. I enjoy some more long-form content because I think that we've just gotten caught up with the quick dopamine hits for the short 5, 10, 15-second videos that are amazing. I enjoy watching them. They're super badass. But we're getting away from the story itself, from telling a story. And I think that brands are changing that this year.
Yeah, to echo that statement, I feel like I've never done something based on some short form content, but the whole reason I started CrossFit was the CrossFit Games documentary. Literally the whole reason I got interested in it, even found out what it was like, it was on Netflix and I was like, what is this? And then I was like, oh my God, Rich Froning's a badass. You know what I mean though? Like, And then I was like, now I want to be a CrossFitter. And then I think literally that year, that was a games doc from like a few years previous, but then I started watching the games that year. I think it was like 2017. I like started watching the CrossFit Games that year. And then I was like, this is so sick. I want to do this.
Yeah. I think that they're Fittest on Earth, that documentary itself is what made CrossFit take off from something
leagues above from where it was.
Something that was like, like a cult following in a way, to an 100%. Established fitness
protocol. Yeah, like 100%.
Everybody knows about CrossFit. And I think that it's because of that documentary, and they started those a while back.
Yep.
That's what let them take off. Shout out CrossFit HQ team.
So how do we get back to that? Is it just like people within our fitness community space, like CrossFit space, that just start making more long form and standing out, or like what do we do?
Try to match it as best we can. Again, it comes back to what you're interested in overall, and portraying that in a way that anybody would be willing to watch it or interested to watch it. Take, for example, Chris had no idea about CrossFit until that documentary. I was like, maybe this is interesting. Fit people lifting weights could be interesting. And that was enough of a hook for him to watch that, change his lifestyle, it sounds like, and become a better person because of it. I think that's what anybody who creates something like that would want for their audience, is like, when they finish watching this, will they be different? Will they change? Will they look at things differently coming out of that? And it comes down to every piece of content. I think that every piece of content should be like that. Long form content is probably a little bit more difficult because our brains are now set to wanting to watch short form content.
Yeah. And, you mentioned this off camera, is like, even now, like, trailers are being edited for TikTok and like different studios and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's a time and a place for everything, no doubt.
Well, can I just say one thing?
No.
The one reason why that those studios are doing that is because it's creating more people are watching more movies because of those short form videos. And so it directs them into the long form content, which I think is also helpful. That's why we create movie trailers, it's a short form of video to lead you into the bigger piece.
Yeah.
Which I think is important.
I would say I'm not really necessarily seeing that in the fitness space though. Is like, all I see right now is, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. There's just a ton of short form pieces of content, except for certain brands that have put funds behind making like longer form documentaries or longer form pieces of content. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like how the way is. So I think for 2026, that idea of creating that longer form pieces of content, like, it's a great way to stand out. It's a great way to be different, because I think that's something that we as creatives always strive to be, is like a different perspective on something that's been captured the same way constantly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For me personally, I'm entering into that journey of creating long form content because I want a new challenge. I want something different out there. I can still achieve all the results I want to within like reels and all the short form by just taking bite-sized pieces of everything that I do. But creating that long form seems to be like more of a daunting challenge in a good way, where it's like, it's going to really focus and put me out of my comfort zone and require me to do a lot more work on actually formulating a story through all the different steps that create for a compelling story. And that's what I'm most excited for this upcoming year, for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
this isn't me trying to convince people to do what I'm doing. I'm just like, it just interests me. And I think that's what we got to look at for creatives. Like, if it interests you, just go for it.
Well, I mean, that's why you started this podcast, is so then you can talk to people to learn more information in a long form manner. Right. Yeah. So,
I mean, I don't think, and that's the other thing to that point. I mean, podcasts are huge right now. And what is podcast? It's a long form content.
Yeah.
I mean,
and not every podcast has 4 cameras.
True.
That was a minor flex. It's fine.
5. Put some respect.
5. My mistake.
Feels like the
actually, it's technically 6. That one might not be doing anything, but
good point. Probably the most expensive prop that you'll ever see. What?
Love that.
I'm taking the lens cap off.
Why do you always got to touch my stuff?
Checking to see if there's dust behind the lens.
Ladies, settle down.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, we've gotten away from long form content, and I think that we're ready for it. And I think a good way to stand out in 2026 is to
make more.
Yeah.
Try and do it.
So we get started with passion, right?
That's how you should always start it.
And then literally just be observant of everything around you. Anything could be long form piece of content. Sit down there, write out. For me, it's going to be writing out one idea that I can achieve for the next 12 months. One each month, that is. So 12 total. And being able to go and that's math, right? Math, yeah.
Checking.
Yeah. Let me ask ChatGPT.
So that's me going on ChatGPT asking for one idea. No, but it's a in all seriousness, like going on like ChatGPT or anything else is a great place to start. I think with long form too, if you find yourself being a little bit overwhelmed or not knowing where to start and stuff like that. I mean, you know, we often have different types of conversations, but not everyone has access to someone like yourself or whatever to bounce ideas off of, you know, in that case. So
I agree.
Is there anyone like out there right now that is creating any type of long form content that you enjoy watching or you like looking at? And that can kind of be like on YouTube, that can be on a streaming platform, but something to kind of give us like a lay of the land or like maybe even look at as like, okay, like this is how it's done right. Now I can just adapt it to my style.
I don't know if I want to say anybody specific, mainly because there's so many different categories. Like I like to watch, as a creator, I really like to watch content and videos, and the stuff that I like to watch sometimes might not be what everybody else likes, but there are plenty of people out there. If you either go onto YouTube, not necessarily Instagram, but go onto YouTube, find what's trending. There's so many different pieces of content out there. And what you'll start to learn is that they all follow a guideline. You just have to take yourself out of that audience perspective that you're watching a video, and you have to watch how these creators are creating these videos. And every time they always follow a specific guideline, and it's not rocket science. They just stick to that guideline, and you'll learn overall.
Yeah, so you'll see their secret sauce and be able to implement that.
Yeah, without them telling you specifically. It's just you have to take yourself out of the audience perspective. You can't look at a piece of content as somebody who's trying to enjoy and watch
like what it's made for.
Yeah.
You have to look at it through the lens of a creative, not through the lens of what the content was made for.
Yeah. Most of my family do not enjoy watching movies with me because I am not an audience member when it comes to movies. So I will tell everybody what's happening. Play by play, scene by scene. So
like,
don't watch a movie.
The funny thing about that is Tyler and I were watching Dune 2 last night. She hadn't seen the second one, and I love those movies. And they have a lot of really cool shots in that movie. Mm-hmm. And there's one shot specifically where the main character is walking through a crowd of people, and the main character is in a lot darker clothing than the crowd, and they're in very like tan colored clothing, and they frame it. It's framed from above, like the camera angle is straight down, so you just see like a bunch of dots of people, and then him moving slowly through the crowd. And I like, in that moment, I like turned over to her and I was like, that shot was so sick. And she was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean what? I was like, the overhead shot. I was like, where they're pointing down over the crowd. Like I catch myself like noticing stuff like that too, where I'm like, I appreciate shot selection, shot setup in movies. Like, and like, I like a better understanding of like what they're trying to achieve with that shot than if I wasn't a creative, or if I was just trying to like kind of mindlessly watch the movie for it being a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. The specific scene when they introduced Jaws is they're on the beach. There's kids, families that are on the beach, swimming, playing. And then they introduce the characters of the ones that are going to be attacked by Jaws.
Yep.
It's a little kid.
Yep.
The kid is wearing red.
Okay.
On purpose.
Yeah.
He's wearing red on purpose because he's the target.
Yep.
The mother is wearing yellow because she's the cautious one.
Yeah.
The kid goes out into the waters. we, as the audience, like in the shots, we don't see him anymore.
Yeah.
We see commotion,
Yeah,
playing.
tons happening.
And then we start to hear screaming. And what's the next shot? The next shot is the mom
In yellow.
in yellow,
Screaming.
worried.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like worried. Yeah, like
freaking out.
Yep.
Not one, figuring out what's happening. That in itself is optimal storytelling, but it's like,
Yeah, it's just like little creative geniuses
yeah,
thrown into.
it's all on purpose.
Yeah.
Every single piece of that is on purpose.
That's why I don't think sometimes people really grasp when they were watching film. It's like every, like you said, every little thing, every minuscule detail.
Yep.
There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
That's literally somebody's job. Like,
yes,
when creating a movie,
Mhm.
to make sure that there's those details.
Yeah.
Very specifically.
You'll start to see too that it even goes as crazy as, let's say in a movie, two individuals are having an argument and there's one person that is overpowering that other person.
Oh yeah.
If you take a look at the angle of
how
they're
frame
looking,
them.
how they're looking at
Yes.
the person, usually they're looking down at the person.
Yeah.
And even during that scene, what you'll also notice sometimes is the other individual gains that power back. And for whatever reason, somehow that person is now looking down at the person.
Yeah, it's like that
who was.
low to high.
Yeah.
It like puts the audience in that perspective to
switches.
evoke a feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And nobody, it's not.
Yeah, they don't really like
shown,
think about
not
it.
talked about.
Yeah.
It's portrayed.
100%.
And for whatever reason, us as audience members subconsciously, we see that.
Yeah, it makes us feel that emotion more
Changes.
strongly. Yeah.
Yeah. Changes our feelings.
100%.
And that's when I say taking yourself out of the audience perspective and being able to look at it from the angle that nobody wants to look at a type of content, long form content, being able to learn from that and apply that to yourself.
Jake, is there one piece of content that you've made recently that you're like really proud of?
Great question.
Thank you. Great question.
I think that I'm so critiqueful of any of the content that I create. It's hard for me to say that there's something that I'm super proud of, but what I like to see is if my client is happy and if they feel proud of the content that was created. I get more of a kick out of that from somebody else's things. For me personally, I just haven't created content for myself. And so from that perspective, it's hard for me to answer that question, which is something that I'm working on this year, is to
New year, new him.
focus back on myself and try to create content around myself, because that'd be cool.
Is there a piece of content you could talk us through that's like on?
Oh, you want like a deep dive?
Is there
You
something
want me
like
to actually-
longer form?
Do you want me to actually pull up a video
Yeah.
for you?
You can pull it. Yeah, you can pull it up.
Honor Health. I worked with Honor Health recently.
Okay.
Honor Health Foundation.
Okay.
Let me try to find one of their videos, but they recently added a cardiac center to one of their hospitals, and they hired our team to talk to the doctors and also talk to patients who had dealt with cardiac issues in the past. And they talked about their story on how they had dealt with cardiac arrest. I think it was something like that. And they went to Honor Health Hospital, got treated, came through, fully recovered. And they just talked about how such a bad situation in general for them, Honor Health was able to make it as best of a journey as possible, like make them feel comfortable the best way they could. And it just goes to show like they came to us that they wanted to portray that. They wanted to get the testimonies from those specific patients, I would say. It was just interesting to hear from their story. And it's really just talking about the patient themselves, how they found out, how they got diagnosed, and their journey through it overall. Like it's
So the setup was you would have interviews, testimonies from the individual patients, and then like just B-roll days, or like what was the how was the setup of the actual shoot itself?
the shoot itself. We started with it didn't go in chronological order per se, but the stuff that we captured made sense when we pieced it all together. So like in the morning, we had all of the patients who had fully recovered. We interviewed them right at the start of the day. We had I guess you would say a script supervisor who was kind of like, I would say, pushing the right story. So they had all the questions established. I was just somebody who was capturing the content. So they asked the right questions so that individuals, asked the right questions to get the right answers out of the story that led to why we were creating the video. And so I don't remember all the questions, but it was basically just hearing from their perspective how their journey was from being diagnosed to being cured or healed in a way. And I think anybody can relate to that because most individuals or people have gone through something like that in general, where they were at a certain point, probably hit a low point during that time and was able to fully recover or go through with it.
With that, then, what were some things that you learned from it, from creating that longer form pieces of content? It sounded like a lot of moving parts, so a lot of people involved over a larger period of time. Like, what were some lessons learned and some key takeaways that maybe someone that is listening to this would embark on, when creating that longer form?
Sometimes the content that you want to capture happens after the interview. And it's knowing if you want to continue to record. Like, take, for example, for that specific, all those specific videos for Honor Health, the patients themselves were able to see the doctors who treated them. And that was all captured on camera. But at a certain point, we kind of stopped recording necessarily. Me personally, I didn't stop recording. I wanted to continue to capture. And when the patient and the doctor were like, okay, like that's good, we can stop recording, there was even more interaction that took place after that, where it helped with that story in general. And they actually used a lot of that content that was captured after the interview, after that rekindling, it's cool because for me as a creator, usually, or somebody as a creator, sometimes when you're like, oh, stop recording, like that doesn't mean for you to stop. It's still just continue to think about what can tell the story in the best way possible. And it was just them having a conversation, them catching up with each other.
It's good. So just like keep that camera rolling and be ready.
Just know when to stop, know when to start.
Yeah.
Because again, it just goes back to that question of, is this worth capturing? And is it something that can help with the story itself? We knew, or we learned about the story, like from us for those specific videos, we knew the ideas that were behind it, but knowing that is what people would like to see is why I continue to record.
Yeah.
So.
And you're letting the moment breathe, which is something you can't necessarily achieve on a short form piece of content. Like,
yes,
you got to be so focused on establishing so many things. Whereas, like you just mentioned there, being able to allow a moment to fully play out, and there's a little bit of suspense, and there's like this, you can tell the story from both people experiencing that moment of rekindling, and like you can get all the emotions that are involved with that. And then everything that happens before and after, as opposed to just showing them hugging or something.
Yeah.
Right? There's more of a build up to it.
Yeah. Exactly. On that set, we had a really good producer who was there on set with us, who did an amazing job at just making the patients, anybody who was on camera, because we interviewed doctors as well, feel comfortable. The doctors, they had already been on camera before, so they kind of understood and how it all works. But if you grab somebody randomly who isn't necessarily comfortable on camera, the first 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however much time that you have, all that you want to establish is to get them comfortable.
Right.
Because again, I think I said this already, but you can tell when somebody's uncomfortable on camera. Like it's obvious. There's no hiding it, especially for an audience member. They're going to be able to tell if somebody feels awkward.
Yeah.
Well, especially when they're talking about like a hardship they've experienced and endured. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like forced. Like they're being told to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too with the idea of like the questions and answers in that extended period of time that now that you have, it's like you can really like ask some questions that allow for some extended answers as opposed to just quick sound bites. Like there's no quick sound bites. Like it's like question, really great thought out response. And that's what's really great about, I mean, podcasting, great example. Like Chris pointed to it earlier, like podcasting is a great form of long form piece of content because it's an extended period of time where people can talk, sometimes a little bit too much like myself, but they can really like dive into key topics and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It comes down to, I think I've said that way too many times now, but
we have editing involved.
It's a lot of learning. There's so much learning that you can do about portraying a story. And I think the best thing that you can do is just to start, just try it. Like nobody's going to care about your first long form piece of content. Nobody will care. Maybe your family, your mom, your dad will give you a thumbs up on it, but that's not why you want to do it. You want to do it because you enjoy it. And at some point there's going to be one person, two people, 1,000 people who are going to agree and say, I like this stuff too. And as long as you can find those people, then that's what matters. Even maybe if you don't find those people, as long as you enjoy it yourself, that's what's important.
I think that's a great moment to end on. Jake, appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
See you in the next one.
Yeah, buddy.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Capture the Reps podcast. If you're a fitness creative and you found this episode helpful, please share this with a fellow creative and keep creating, keep learning, and keep capturing those reps. We'll see you next time.